It was June 24th, 2002, a typical summer day in Columbia, South Carolina. 15-year-old Kara Robinson woke up with plans for a relaxing afternoon with her best friend. She was full of the carefree excitement of summer vacation, ready to spend the day just being a teenager. Columbia, a quiet town known for its peaceful neighborhoods and community warmth, felt like one of the safest places in the world. But on this ordinary day, a twist of fate would lead Kara into a nightmare that she never could have imagined. Kara arrived at her friend's house around noon. Her friend was still getting ready inside, and her friend's mom asked Kara if she could water the flowers in the front yard to help out. Kara agreed. It was the kind of small favor she didn't mind doing. As she bent over the flower beds, a car pulled up slowly in the driveway. Out of the corner of her eye, she saw a man step out of the vehicle, holding some pamphlets. She assumed he might be a salesman or a neighbor, stopping by to hand out some local advertisements or community notices. But as he approached her, something felt off. He seemed to be lingering, watching her intently. The man greeted her in a friendly manner, saying he was passing out pamphlets in the area, but there was something unusual in his tone, something that felt too casual, too calculated. Before Kara could respond, he stepped closer, reaching out as if to hand her a flyer. But instead of giving her the pamphlet, he suddenly pulled a gun out of his waistband and pointed it directly at her, his expression shifting into something cold and menacing. The air felt thick with silence, her heartbeat echoing in her ears. Her mind raced, but her body was frozen in shock. In one swift, terrifying moment, the man grabbed her and forced her into his car. She was thrown into the back seat, her heart pounding as the door slammed shut behind her. The man sped off, and the world Kara knew faded behind her. She barely had time to process what had happened. She was now locked in the back seat of a stranger's car, her mind spinning with questions and fear. Who was this man? Where was he taking her? And more urgently, how was she going to escape? The man remained silent, focused on the road as if nothing was out of the ordinary. But as the car rolled further from her friend's house and deeper into the unknown, Kara's fear turned into something else. Determination. Even in the chaos, Kara felt a surge of resolve. If she was going to survive, she needed to stay alert. In those tense moments, Kara began committing everything she could to memory. She took note of every detail in the car, the make, model, and color, the distinct marks on the dashboard, even the items strewn across the back seat. She could see the man in the rearview mirror. His face was calm, almost casual, as if this was just another day for him. His expression and movements told her one thing: he had done this before. But Kara refused to let him see her fear. She knew that she would have to keep her wits about her if she wanted to escape. They drove for what felt like hours, the scenery outside becoming increasingly isolated. Finally, they arrived at a secluded house far from any nearby homes. Kara's kidnapper led her inside, ordering her to remain silent. Her heart raced as he ushered her into a small room. He bound her hands and feet, tightening the restraints as he watched her closely. Every fiber of her being screamed with fear, but she forced herself to stay calm. She looked around, memorizing every corner of the room, the sounds filtering in from outside, and the layout of the house as best she could. The man left her alone for stretches at a time, giving Kara moments to observe. Her mind became a catalog of details: the wooden furniture, the faint scent of cleaning supplies, the sound of traffic faintly humming in the distance. Her kidnapper returned periodically, sometimes speaking to her, other times just sitting nearby, watching her in unsettling silence. Kara's unease grew with each passing minute, but she made sure to stay sharp, to analyze every detail. The more she knew, the better her chances. Over the next few hours, Kara noticed patterns in her captor's behavior. He seemed meticulous, careful in his movements, and obsessed with maintaining control over his surroundings. She began to piece together the kind of person he might be, someone who thrived on power, who found satisfaction in planning and preying on unsuspecting victims. But the more he tried to control her, the more resolute she became. She silently vowed that she wouldn't let him break her spirit. Then, early the next morning, an opportunity presented itself. Kara noticed her captor becoming more relaxed, as if he no longer considered her a threat. His guard slipped just long enough for her to start planning her escape. She took deep breaths, steadying herself, and waited until she was sure he wasn't watching. With careful, deliberate movements, she managed to wriggle her hands free of the restraints. Her heart pounded as she slowly moved toward the door, her senses on high alert. The world outside seemed impossibly close and painfully far all at once. She inched out of the room and slipped through the hallway, taking one last look around to remember everything she could. Finally, she made it out the door. She sprinted down the driveway, her legs carrying her faster than she thought possible. She ran to a nearby road, waving desperately for help. A passing driver saw her and immediately stopped, startled by her disheveled appearance and the panic in her eyes. The driver quickly called the police, and Kara knew she was finally safe. But even in her relief, she knew her ordeal wasn't over. She was determined to make sure her captor would never be able to do this to anyone else. When the police arrived, Kara recounted every detail she'd memorized. She described the car, the house, and her captor with such precision that investigators were left astonished. Her bravery and sharp memory led them straight to the man responsible, Richard Evanitz. As investigators looked into his past, they uncovered a horrifying truth. Evanitz had been linked to several other unsolved cases involving young girls who had gone missing over the years. Kara's escape was the key that finally exposed his dark secrets, and in doing so, brought long-awaited answers to the families of his other victims. The capture of Evanitz marked the end of his reign of terror, and Kara's courageous actions had saved countless others. Her strength in the face of unimaginable fear had not only led to her freedom, but it also helped bring justice to the families of those who had never returned. Kara's story is a powerful reminder of the resilience of the human spirit. In the midst of a nightmare, she fought back with every ounce of determination she had, refusing to let fear take control. Today, Kara Robinson's story stands as an inspiration to people around the world. Her ordeal, once a source of terror, has become a testament to her courage and survival. She's shared her experience openly, hoping her story will serve as a beacon of hope for anyone who may find themselves in a similar situation. Her tale is a haunting reminder of the strength we carry within, even in our darkest hours, and the power of never giving up, even when all seems lost. The story of Junko Furuta is one of Japan's most heartbreaking cases, bringing awareness to issues of safety and inspiring national change. In late 1988, Tokyo's Misato neighborhood was a quiet, suburban area where families felt safe, children played freely, and everyone knew each other. In this close-knit community lived 17-year-old Junko Furuta, a high school student known for her kindness, hard-working nature, and bright future. With excellent grades, a great group of friends, and a supportive family, she represented everything her peers admired. Junko was close to her family, respectful to her teachers, and had dreams of becoming successful. Junko's school life reflected her ambition. She stood out for her dedication and sincerity, balancing school, social life, and future goals. She was the kind of student who brought positivity to her surroundings, often described as cheerful, focused, and compassionate toward everyone around her. Her life was like that of any high schooler, revolving around studies, friendships, and hopes for the future. One evening in November 1988, while heading home, Junko crossed paths with a group of young men who were known in the neighborhood. They had a reputation for causing trouble and were known to the local authorities for their disruptive behavior. Junko, unfamiliar with them, was seen as an outsider to them, yet one of the group members quickly took an interest in her. Despite Junko's attempt to ignore them, she was followed by one member of the group, who took her by surprise and forced her into a secluded area. With no one around and little time to respond, Junko was taken to an unoccupied house the group was familiar with, a location that offered privacy from the outside world. As Junko did not return home, her family quickly became concerned. They were close, and Junko had always been responsible, so her absence was alarming. That night, her family immediately began to search for her, retracing her steps and asking neighbors and friends if anyone had seen her. They called her friends and went to the police station, hoping to bring her home safely. The police launched an investigation, focusing on her usual routes, interviewing classmates, and distributing her picture around the community. Her family's worry grew each day she was missing, hoping for any sign that might lead them to her. Days passed, but Junko remained missing, and the community began to rally behind her family, assisting with the search and offering support. Junko's captors, confident they had covered their tracks, kept her hidden in a small house in a quiet part of the neighborhood. Isolated from the world she knew, Junko found herself in a difficult situation, but she remained determined and hopeful. Her mind focused on staying alert, remembering details about her surroundings, and looking for any possible opportunity to escape. Despite being confined, Junko's strength was remarkable. She focused on small ways to keep herself going, even in the most difficult moments. She kept a sharp mind, trying to remember every detail about her captors and surroundings, hoping to someday share her story. Her spirit was resilient, refusing to be broken even when the circumstances seemed insurmountable. As Junko's disappearance stretched from days into weeks, the community's concern intensified. Her family continued to push for answers, and the police followed every lead. Community members gathered in support, helping distribute flyers, setting up search parties, and urging the police to keep looking. Neighbors who heard occasional noises dismissed them, unaware of the events unfolding nearby. The local authorities kept pursuing all leads. However, as time went on, frustration grew as the search yielded no conclusive results. The police continued to monitor the usual suspects and neighborhood areas, unaware that Junko was much closer than they thought. In the final days of her captivity, Junko's captors became more relaxed, convinced they would not be found. However, Junko's strong will persisted. Even after weeks of confinement, she kept her hope alive, looking for any moment to escape. She remained observant, studying patterns and movements around the house, still determined that somehow she would find a way out or that someone would find her. In a critical turn of events, authorities received a tip about a possible location. Police were swift in their response, tracing the information to a small house where the captors were present. When they entered the premises, they were unprepared for the extent of the situation that had unfolded there. The case shocked the entire community, and the news spread across the nation, sparking widespread discussion. As the investigation concluded, more details emerged about Junko's captors and their backgrounds. Legal proceedings took place, and the captors faced consequences under the law. The case led to discussions about legal reforms, safety awareness, and the need for stricter measures for crimes involving young people. It spurred change in policies regarding community safety and brought attention to the importance of vigilance. Junko's family, though heartbroken, remained steadfast in honoring her memory. The loss of Junko brought grief, but her family was supported by the community and the nation, all of whom mourned her. Many who learned about the case were moved by her courage and resilience. Junko Furuta's story became a turning point for Japan, inspiring change and leading to a collective resolve to improve safety measures. Her legacy lives on as a powerful reminder of resilience and the importance of standing up for justice. Her story inspired laws focused on protecting young people, reinforcing Japan's commitment to community vigilance and support for families affected by loss. In Japan, Junko's memory remains a poignant reminder of the value of life and community. Schools, communities, and families often tell her story as a lesson in compassion, strength, and the importance of never giving up, even in the face of tragedy. Her legacy continues to impact lives, emphasizing the importance of kindness, courage, and hope. This case is one of tragedy and resilience. The story of Junko Furuta continues to serve as a reminder of the power of community, the importance of vigilance, and the strength that exists even in the darkest times. Colleen Stan was born on December 31, 1956, in the United States. Growing up, she was described as a friendly and hard-working individual, often looking forward to a bright future. By 1977, she was a 20-year-old woman living in California, known for her adventurous spirit. However, her life took a drastic turn on May 19, 1977, when she decided to hitchhike to a friend's house. This seemingly innocent choice led her into a horrifying ordeal that would last several years. On that fateful day, Colleen was picked up by Cameron Hooker, a man in his 20s. He was accompanied by his wife, Janice. Initially, Colleen felt at ease, as Hooker seemed friendly. However, things quickly turned dark. After a short drive, Hooker and his wife took Colleen to a remote area where she was coerced into getting into their vehicle. Once inside, Colleen was threatened and abducted. Cameron Hooker took Colleen to his home in a secluded area. He subjected her to severe psychological and physical abuse, manipulating her into submission. He used a method known as the slave box, which was a makeshift confinement device that restrained her and contributed to her isolation. Cameron repeatedly told Colleen that she was part of a sex-slave contract and that she had no hope of escape. He instilled fear in her, claiming that he had connections that would harm her and her family if she tried to leave. During her captivity, Colleen endured numerous forms of manipulation and control. Cameron would often isolate her from the outside world, forbidding her from speaking to others. His tactics included psychological torture, emotional manipulation, and threats, which created a climate of fear. Janice Hooker initially participated in the abuse, but later became sympathetic to Colleen's plight. Despite the trauma, Colleen's spirit remained resilient. She focused on survival, trying to maintain a sense of hope amidst the adversity. Over time, she managed to gain some trust from her captor, which eventually provided her with a chance to escape. In August 1984, after nearly 7 years of captivity, Colleen was given a rare opportunity to leave the house on an errand. It was during this errand that she seized her chance to escape. When she was sent to a nearby area, she approached a house and sought help. The residents there responded compassionately, and they assisted her in contacting law enforcement. Once free, Colleen reported her ordeal to the authorities. This led to the arrest of Cameron Hooker, who was charged with kidnapping, sexual assault, and other related crimes. In 1985, he was found guilty and sentenced to between 7 and 14 years in prison. However, he served only a fraction of his sentence, which became a point of contention and public outrage. Colleen Stan's story is a powerful example of resilience in the face of unimaginable hardship. After her ordeal, she worked hard to rebuild her life and eventually became an advocate for other victims of abuse and abduction. By sharing her experience, she aimed to raise awareness about the importance of support for survivors and the need for community vigilance against violence. Her case has also prompted discussions regarding safety, personal awareness, and the resources available for individuals in vulnerable situations. Colleen's strength and courage continue to inspire others, reminding them of the importance of hope and resilience, even in the darkest of times. Her story serves as a cautionary tale and a beacon of hope, illustrating the power of the human spirit to overcome adversity. In the quiet streets of Cleveland, Ohio, A dark and horrifying chapter unfolded between 2002 and 2004, leaving an indelible mark on the community and the nation. This is the story of three young women whose lives were forever altered by a heinous act of violence. Their names are Michelle Knight, Amanda Berry, and Gina DeJesus. Michelle Knight, just 21 years old at the time, was the first to fall victim to the sinister intentions of Ariel Castro. On a fateful day, August 23, 2002, she was approached by him while walking down the street. Lured by the promise of a ride, Michelle climbed into his vehicle, completely unaware that this innocent choice would plunge her into a nightmare that would last for years. Not long after Michelle's abduction, tragedy struck again. On April 21, 2003, Amanda Berry, who was just about to celebrate her 17th birthday, was approached by Castro as she was making her way home from work at a local fast food restaurant. He offered her a lift, and in a moment that would forever change her life, she accepted. Little did she know that she was entering a place that would become a dark prison. Then, on April 2, 2004, 14-year-old Gina DeJesus was taken. She was another innocent girl who had fallen into Castro's web of deceit. Like Michelle and Amanda, Gina had known Castro through his connections to her family and friends. His familiarity made it easy for her to trust him, leading her to accept his offer of a ride home. But instead of safety, she would encounter unimaginable horror. Once inside Castro's home, the reality of their captivity became painfully clear. The three women endured unimaginable horrors, subjected to brutal physical and psychological abuse. They were separated from one another, forced to live in isolated rooms where their captor exercised extreme control over every aspect of their lives. Castro employed a regime of terror, using both psychological manipulation and physical restraint to maintain his dominance. He went so far as to create an environment of constant fear, subjecting them to harsh punishment for any disobedience. The women were made to believe they were part of a twisted slave contract, and the reality of their situation was a continuous struggle for survival. They were deprived of basic needs and the freedom to live their lives. Each day blended into the next, filled with uncertainty, pain, and an unrelenting sense of hopelessness. Despite the brutal conditions, the human spirit has an incredible capacity for resilience. Michelle, Amanda, and Gina each found ways to cope with their horrific reality, holding on to the flicker of hope that one day they might escape. Over time, Amanda developed a rapport with Castro, hoping to gain his trust and find an opportunity to break free from her captivity. Then, in a moment that would change everything, on May 6, 2013, Amanda Berry seized her chance. After nearly a decade of living in fear, she discovered a door that had been left unlocked. Summoning every ounce of courage and determination, she made the brave decision to flee into the daylight, leaving behind the horrors she had endured for so long. As Amanda burst into the outside world, she sprinted toward a nearby house, crying out for help. A neighbor, Charles Ramsey, heard her desperate cries and rushed to her side. He recognized the urgency of the situation and immediately called 911, setting in motion a chain of events that would lead to the rescue of all three women. Amanda's bravery was met with compassion and support, giving her hope that she was finally free. When law enforcement arrived at Castro's home, they discovered Michelle Knight and Gina DeJesus, who had been living in the shadows alongside Amanda. Their rescue sparked a wave of relief and disbelief across the nation, as people everywhere celebrated the strength of the women who had endured so much. Ariel Castro was arrested and faced a multitude of charges, including kidnapping and rape. The details of his crimes sent shockwaves through the community and beyond. In August 2013, he pleaded guilty to an astonishing 937 counts, receiving a sentence of 1,000 years in prison without the possibility of parole. Justice, while delayed, was finally served. After their escape, Amanda, Michelle, and Gina began the long journey of healing. They received extensive support from loved ones, therapists, and organizations dedicated to helping survivors of abuse. The road to recovery was fraught with challenges, but they bravely shared their experiences, raising awareness about the importance of support and intervention for victims of abduction. Their story ignited discussions about safety, the responsibility of communities, and the resources available to those in distress. It emphasized the critical need for vigilance in recognizing the signs of potential danger and taking action when necessary. The Cleveland kidnappings served as a powerful reminder of resilience and courage in the face of adversity. The lives of Amanda Berry, Michelle Knight, and Gina DeJesus continue to inspire others, underscoring the importance of community awareness and the fight against violence. Their voices have become a beacon of hope, urging others to speak out and seek help, no matter how dire the circumstances may seem. In the end, the Cleveland kidnappings are not just a story of horror. They are a testament to the strength of the human spirit, the power of resilience, and the unwavering hope for a better tomorrow. Their journey from victimization to empowerment reminds us all of the importance of compassion, vigilance, and the enduring fight for justice.